Today on Locked On Bama, we're ready to get into Texas and talk about exactly what Quinn Ewers is going to try and do and how exactly are we going to try and stop the Longhorns.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, I can feel it in the air, baby. It's cow manure moving this way towards Tuscaloosa as the Texas Longhorns will be moving in. Thank you for making us your first listen. And Jimmy, super fired up about this game. Can't wait. Got me some tickets now, so I'm super excited. And let's talk a little bit about Texas in general. Couple of things. First of all, I noticed that you had an exchange on the On3 message board at Bama Online, and you were talking to some folks. I thought this was a good thing to be talking about. Texas, especially under Sarkisian, seems to play to the level of their competition to a degree. Yeah, so it got me curious because, I think everybody remembers that Texas lost at home to Kansas, 2 years ago? Pretty famously, there was some walk-on from Kansas, who I think is from Texas, that ended up catching the 2-point conversion to win the game. Their family goes nuts. But Texas does, last year they also famously played Alabama tooth and nail. And I think Texas got more credit for that than they did for even beating Oklahoma 49-0 or whatever it was. I mean, I think they got more credit for losing to Alabama by 1 point at home than they did for blowing Oklahoma out, which tells you a little bit about what people think about our program. But more specifically, if there's anything else you can expand on that, fine. But more specifically, I looked back at some of Quinn Ewers' performances from last year. All right. Now, obviously, he was hurt in the Alabama game, but I'm going to include the Alabama game. His 5 games that he was in, ULM, Bama, Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. He passed for 11 touchdowns and had over 1,100 yards passing. Okay, that's pretty strong considering he didn't play. He didn't have a touchdown against Alabama. He only played about a quarter, plus or minus. But his last 5 games, Kansas State, TCU, Kansas, Baylor, Washington, he only had 4 touchdowns, and he did have 1,038 yards passing, but 370 of those came against Washington in the bowl game. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. It seemed like after the Oklahoma State game where he had a pretty good game, but he threw for 3 picks, things started going a little bit more on a downwards trajectory for Quinn Ewers. So you kind of wonder what kind of Quinn Ewers we're going to get because he didn't look like a world beater against Rice. And I hate that term world beater. That's so dumb. That's so hyperbolic, but whatever, I'm going to use it. Have you ever heard it before? You looked at me strange.
No, I've heard of it, and I guess I don't like it either. I don't think that being a good college football quarterback requires you to beat up the whole world.
And also, here's another little interesting tidbit, or 2 of them. Quinn Ewers has only been sacked 11 times. Now, I don't think they count, and I know it wasn't a sack, but this doesn't count the hurries. I probably shouldn't have said I don't think they count this. But, one thing that's not included in there is Dallas Turner leveled him when he practically sacked him. He practically sacked him. And it was a roughing the passer, which I thought should not have been called. But regardless, here's the other thing. Quinn Ewers' longest pass play at Texas appears to be 49 yards. Does that not surprise you a little?
Yeah. I mean, to me, Ewers is a lot like Texas. And doesn't that make sense? I mean, in terms of when Ewers looks good, he's really good. There's a reason he was 5-star number 1 quarterback in the nation in his class coming out, signed by Ohio State. Vicious recruiting battle between Texas and Ohio State. And when he is at his best, he's as good as anyone, honestly. And that's what the NFL is looking for. The NFL is not, of course, they're going to love if you're great on every single snap. There's just so few of those guys. What they're looking for is upside, who can potentially do really well in this league. And that's got Quinn Ewers written all over it, right? Because potentially he's incredible because we've seen flashes of it. But Ewers has never been so far in his career really good week to week to week. And know what else this is describing? Texas. Texas under Sark, Texas prior to Sark. But Texas under Sark is all we need to be concerned about. That's who Alabama's playing this weekend. Texas under Sark, when they have been at their best, super elite, super elite. As good as Alabama, as good as Georgia, as good as Ohio State, as good as the best teams in college football. But what Sark hasn't been able to do is do that week to week to week. Well, that's a Texas issue. We're locked on Bama. We only talk about the Bama issues. Here's the Bama issue. They're going to be good this weekend. Of course they are. They get up for the big games. They play well in this situation. Sark did well in this situation at his prior stops when he was at Washington as the head coach, when he was at Southern Cal as the head coach. They tended to play their best in the big games with everyone watching, and they weren't so good week to week either. And they lost to teams that had you scratching your head, because make no mistake about it, Texas was probably a more talented team than every team they lost to last year, except maybe, who beat Texas that was better than Texas? Alabama, for sure. I don't know that anyone else it was as good as Texas that beat Texas. So Alabama's going to get an elite football team on Saturday. Why are they potentially elite? Dudes. Quinn Ewers at his best is a dude. Xavier Worthington, the other wide receiver, fantastic. A.D. Mitchell, the transfer from Georgia, big 6'3" guy, tough to cover. He's good. The tight end is the best tight end in all of college football, not named Brock Bowers. We're going to see the second best tight end in college football in Jatavian Sanders on Saturday. He's going to be the second tight end taken in this draft upcoming. That's how good he is. On defense, Jalen Ford, as good as any linebacker as we will face all year. The Texas defensive front, probably the best defensive line Alabama will face all year, will either be Texas or LSU's. Show you how good that group is. So this is a team full of dudes, and dudes that will play well. It's a heck of a challenge for real. And I think last year's game is all you need to know. I mean, for any Alabama fan that's out there just blowing this off and it's just another fake. Did y'all watch the game last year? I mean, one more thing about last year's game. I'm not sure that Alabama's better than they were a year ago. I'm not sure. They might be. I'm really sure Texas is better. We're going to play a better Texas team than the one we played last year. So all those reasons should give everyone some heartburn. That was my goal this morning, give everyone heartburn. You're welcome.
I think it's fair to say Texas is definitely better. I think it is to be determined. And you said it right. You said, I'm just not sure. But I guess the tone of your voice made it sound like I'm leaning towards last year was better. I don't know just yet. I'm not willing to say, because though I've said a gazillion times, I think Bryce Young is the best player in Alabama history. And it's just incredibly unfortunate he wasn't able to bring us a title. He did everything he could, if you ask me, but whatever. I feel like the attitude of this team is so much different that may make this team better when we review them later on at the end of the year. Jimmy, I need to tell everybody about eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. You know how it is with your vehicle. If you got a piece that's not fitting just right, it's not going to work right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right. The first time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that part will indeed fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from back in the game, it's easy. Right part, get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. And let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. So talking a little more Texas here, I want to throw out something about Jeff Banks. I'm going to put this up. Jeff Banks, of course, formed very famously, maybe my favorite podcast we've ever done. I'll never forget where I was when we heard about Jeff Banks and his either girlfriend or significant other or wife or whatever it is that happens to be a dancer. Is that what I can say? Or different things on our podcast. I don't know if I can say it. And she also has a pet monkey, and that pet monkey attacked a kid that was trick-or-treating. None of this, I know all those words, but those sentences make no sense. And but Jeff Banks now was coaching special teams at Alabama then. Now he's coaching at Texas. And apparently he had this to say: we are just going to play another road game, just as hard in Kansas and Iowa State as it's going to be in Tuscaloosa. It's just bigger and more people. Now, did he actually say this? The credit goes to Anwar Richardson for saying that. I choose to believe he said that. I choose to believe that somebody who is either married or dating an exotic dancer who happens to have a pet monkey that attacked the child on a holiday, I believe he would say something like that. So it's our duty as fans. You're going to the game. I'm going to the game. A lot of people listening to this are going to the game. We have to make sure that this isn't Iowa State. Now, you and I have also been not critical, but we've just pointed out, and I think it's fair, Alabama's home field advantage, though Nick Saban is 102-8 at his time in Tuscaloosa, the home field advantage is rarely exposed in terms of how vehemently we cheer for our team, unless it's LSU 2019, Mississippi State 2014. Those are games that are LSU 2011, Auburn 2010. Problem is we lost 3 of those 4 games I just rolled off. Georgia 2020 was a great crowd. Too bad it was COVID, and the people that were there were awesome. And had it been a full crowd and not a COVID situation, that place would have been at full throat. We know that. I hate saying that, by the way. But the last non-conference game, by the way, Alabama's lost. I'm sure you know what it is, Jimmy. You know what it is, right?
Last non-conference game?
Yeah, that we've lost in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, Louisiana Monroe, I think.
Louisiana Monroe. So it's a long time ago. So the odds are definitely in Alabama's favor if you want to look at it that way. Oh. And I guess the other way is, hey,
sure
even
how
Washington,
many teams have been this good? I mean, we haven't played
none of them.
It's not like we played 30 teams at home as good as this Texas team, non-conference wise. Certainly not. This is probably the
We've
best
only
one.
played one Power 5, and I think, and that's Penn State.
Oh, wow.
I think that's right.
Could be right.
So
that could be right under Saban, because we've played all the really tough non-conference games and the neutral site games.
But back to Jeff Banks and his comment. Is that bulletin board stuff? It is.
Yes.
It will be. But I'm more offended as a fan than the player should be. Like, he's making fun of us.
I think he is. I think to some degree, and I don't think he's making fun. I think he's trying to get. Look, we talked about this on our show, and by the way, there was some talk on the BOL message board about what we said on our show about the fact that Texas doesn't play road games in environments like this. They play Oklahoma's their big game. They play away from home every single season. That's a 50-50 crowd in their home state. That's not going to be like what Bryant Denny will be like. When they go on the road in the Big 12, they play at Baylor, at Iowa State, at Kansas State, at TCU. Some of these are really good football teams. I'm not insulting in any way. Their football teams are good, but their stadiums don't hold 100,000 fans. It's not the same atmosphere. This is a new world for Texas. And I think what Jeff Banks, obviously Jeff Banks is a good coach here. He's a good coach there. I think what Jeff Banks is doing is sort of like the Gene Hackman and Hoosiers when he brings his tiny little rural small school basketball team to Indianapolis to play the big think and he gets out the tape measure and he measures from floor to the rim and it's 10 feet. He's like, hey, just like at home. I think that's what Jeff Banks is doing, is like, we play on the road. There's just more people in the stands. That's it. And I guess he's just trying to get them to calm their nerves about the enormity and the size of the stadium, because it is new to them. Now, if he's saying, hey, this is the same football team that you're playing at Iowa State, I hope that's how Alabama and the coaches explain his comment to our players. He thinks you guys are Baylor. He thinks you guys are Iowa State. And hey, whatever works. Our team does really well when they get external motivation. And hey, if that works, that works. But man, it's going to be fun stuff for those of us who love Alabama football. If you're listening to this show, I know you do. This is what college football season is all about. Is Alabama, Texas. Game days here. SEC Nation's here. The attention of the college football world is on Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Not only that, Jimmy, I have it on very good authority, and I have not been able to release any names, but there are going to be some highfalutin dudes coming into this game. Now, recruits we'll talk about probably on tomorrow's podcast. I'm talking about guys that aren't even associated with football, like high-profile people in the NBA, things like that. One that just sort of shocked me. I mean, I didn't think this would be a cat that'd be coming to Tuscaloosa, and it'll all get out sooner rather than later. And for some people, it may not be a huge name, but it would be huge in terms of where he resides in the NBA. And I think people will be like, wow, that's interesting. So anyway, there's going to be a thing.
It's a good tease.
Yeah, it is a very good tease.
Hey, when we've played our game of the century games, this is sort of what it feels like. And there's going to be a lot of Texas, Matthew McConaughey is going to be here, Vince Young. I have no doubt that all those guys, Luke. But, when we played LSU in 2011 and 2019, I was stunned at the Hollywood feel to who would come to Tuscaloosa and watch those games. And I'm talking the Derek Jeters, A-Rod, LeBron. I mean, all these celebrities that go to huge sporting events, the guys that fly to Vegas for the big boxing matches. They're going to be here, and it's a pricey ticket for sure, and it's fun, and for all sorts of reasons. College football doesn't have enough games like this even today, and we should speak to the overlords of college football. Your schedule in week 1 was abysmal, and your schedule in week 2 is pretty bad. Now, thankfully, Alabama and Texas is going to provide enough oxygen out there that it won't look as bad as it really does, but there needs to be more huge early season games. What I would suggest, no one's going to follow this or agree with me, Luke, but you know what I suggest to combat this? I think more teams should play their big conference games early. Hey, if you don't want to add Ohio State to your schedule because you already play an ACC schedule and you're in the ACC and you're like, I don't want to add Ohio State. Look at what we're Pittsburgh. We have enough problems. Be Pittsburgh. We're not going to add Ohio State. Okay, here's the deal then. This is what you ought to do. Then your North Carolina game, your Clemson game, play it week 1. You'll get a ton of attention. Your kids will work harder during the whole offseason because they know what's coming game 1. Play your conference games early. Then in October, November, we've got other football to distract us. It's not going to bother us when Pitt is playing William and Mary in October. We've had enough football, but weeks 1 and 2, when football's brand new to us and we're all just getting excited, play your conference games in week 1 and week 2. So
let me go ahead and
back to normal programming.
Let me go ahead and put this out there. I'm all for playing the Iron Bowl week 1. I don't enjoy playing the Iron Bowl the week before the SEC title game. I don't enjoy that at all.
It would be big.
So
it would be big.
And here's the other thing. I think that's all going to take care of itself as realignment continues and some of these other teams basically go the way of the dodo, and all we're going to have left is big games. I mean, we're not going to have any more William and Marys, so it's not going to matter. Jimmy, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some similarities with Quinn Ewers and complaints about Quinn Ewers in relation to complaints we've heard about Alabama quarterbacks. And we're back. So I've been checking out some Texas stuff out there, and I didn't realize this. I did not know this. I've been checking out some Texas Twitter, some Texas message board stuff. You and I, as Alabama folks, and probably most people listening, have only heard the Quinn Ewers love. Like, if Quinn Ewers wouldn't hurt against Alabama, then, oh, my God, they would have blown him out. First of all, we don't know that's true. Secondly, what it tells you is we're in the Alabama bubble for the most part. Now, we follow stuff nationally, but we sort of give cursory looks at Quinn Ewers and what's going on. And if you just look at his stats, if you don't, what I said earlier about his first 5 games versus his last 5 games, it kind of sticks out to me. I mean, you've thrown for 7 fewer touchdowns. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. But if you just look at the overall picture, you're like, oh man, he had a heck of a year, and he did. But it was a mild decline. But some of the complaints out there about Quinn Ewers are eerily reminiscent to some of the complaints we've heard about Alabama quarterbacks this year, at least coming into the year. One thing that you and I talked about was, is Jalen Milroe going to be able to hit people on the deep ball? He did it pretty doggone well this past weekend, so maybe that's gotten a lot better. But as I mentioned, Quinn Ewers' longest touchdown is apparently 49 yards, or longest pass play. I don't even know if it was a touchdown. So that tells you, okay, he may not be great at the deep ball, and so I think I've seen that complaint from some of their fans. Other things that I've seen, mechanical issues, consistency issues. Those are all things we've talked about some of our own quarterbacks. Now, Jalen Milroe will leave some of that doubt for sure in this last game. And he could go a long way to even taking away more of that doubt. But I just found it interesting that Quinn Ewers, the guy that, we as Alabama fans remember as, hey, he was lighting us up for a while. And the guy that Auburn fans love to tell us and other rival fans love to tell us, hey, they would have beaten y'all if he hadn't gotten hurt, kind of thing. I just find it interesting that the Texas fans are nitpicking him a little more, and maybe they have a point.
People are hypercritical about quarterbacks, or hypercritical. They look for, the quarterback gets too much blame. He gets too much credit. He gets too much blame. I've read complaints about how Milroe played this weekend and his flaws, even though he was the freaking SEC Player of the Week. I mean, Bryce wasn't perfect either. And as when you were talking about all the issues with Ewers, it brought me back to Bryce's first year as a starter. He won the Heisman Trophy that year as the best player in all of college football. And all during September, Alabama fans were like, he can't throw a deep ball. He can't throw a deep ball. We just don't have the deep ball as part of the playbook because Bryce can't hit it. And that was a legitimate thing on the message boards and social media back then. It just goes to show how hypercritical fans can be when it comes to quarterback position. Quinn Ewers is a very good college quarterback. He's a good NFL prospect. Has he put it all together yet? No. Is he Drake May? No. Is he Caleb Williams? No. But you don't have to be Caleb Williams and Drake May to be really good. And I'm not living in a world where there's only two good quarterbacks and everybody else stinks. That's not how this works. So Quinn Ewers is a very good player, regardless of what Texas fans say. And I think we're going to see a high quality quarterback playing against Alabama on Saturday. I have no doubt that that's what Nick Saban's preparing for. But yes, he has been inconsistent and has not exactly been just a living highlight reel, though he's capable. And again, young player. Last year was his first year starting games. He's going to be a better player this year. And gosh knows he played a really, really, really good quarter against Alabama last year. One last thing, and I'm probably speaking to a few people here listening to the show. Look, if you're one of the people that think, gosh, it's a good thing Quinn Ewers got hurt. If he didn't come out, Alabama was going to lose. You're assuming Quinn Ewers was going to play for 4 quarters like he played that first quarter. That's what you're assuming. But if you think that you bat 1,000 on all you assume, then why aren't you making tens of thousands of dollars betting college football every weekend? Because it's there for the taking. If you know what's going to happen, it's there for the taking, and it's even legal, right? So no one knows what would have happened. I'm not saying Alabama would have won. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know. But those that are saying they do know, you actually don't. Because if you did know, you would be betting, and when it wouldn't even be considered gambling if you know what's going to happen, right? That's not even gambling. It's winning. It's just taking the free money. So no, I'm just joking. But my point, no one knows what would have happened if Colt hadn't gotten hurt. No one knows what would have happened if Quinn hadn't gotten hurt. We don't know. I'm not here telling you guys Alabama would have won anyway. I don't know either.
All right. Jimmy, I want to tell everybody this really quickly before we sign off. We want people to join our subtext group. We want you to. Please go do it. It's going to be in the show notes at the bottom of this. You can chat with us anytime on this new subtext SMS texting service. Jimmy and I are excited to do it. We're learning about it. It's going to be awesome. You can try it for 14 days for free. Okay. After that is $4.99 a month. And again, try it for 14 days. If you don't like it, cancel it. If you love it, keep rolling with it. Jimmy and I we promise you, we give you our word. We're going to update it frequently. It's an opportunity to do some one-on-one stuff. Ask us a question that maybe you feel like, okay, I don't want to get in the chat because you'll get lost in the chat, whatever, on YouTube. But if you want to ask Jimmy or me a question, feel free through this subtext service.
Comes directly to us.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not for public. I mean, if you got a question, it's just like texting us to ask us a question, and we will answer it.
We're also going to put out anything we learn about breaking news, anything about recruiting scoops, anything about schedule news, all that stuff, roster news. We'll put all that out there. So we're really excited to get started with this. Please do go sign up. You can see it in the show notes. We think you guys will love this. We think we're going to love doing it too. And again, Jimmy's right. There's some folks out there that may want to ask us something that they don't want to, they don't want it all to be public because maybe they feel like, okay, I don't want anybody else chiming in. Then just ask the question on this subtext group. Go try it for 14 days. Again, the link is in the show notes. Go try it out. We would certainly appreciate it. All right. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll talk about some of the visitors that are going to be coming in for this game, and we'll go over our predictions.
Star stud. I'm a recruiting fan. The list of prospects coming in, it's basically the on 3 5 stars for 24, 25, and 26, and scattered around top 100 and on 300 guys. It's a star-studded group that is coming to watch this game, Alabama and Texas.
All right, that's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.